Today I am taking a lecture on science, politics and ethics of community intervention. After I finish my lecture, you will know about the role of science and research in involving mental health problems, learn about the political aspect of research done on mental health, that is what the government has done so far for preventing mental illness problems to expand. Identify the viewpoint society holds towards mental health, evaluate the research programs on mental health, and also analyzing the researches which have been done so far. Let me give you an introduction. Under the heading Science, Politics and Ethics of Community Intervention, the use of scientific principles of observation, experimentation for implementing and exploring different styles of community intervention programs for different problems is undertaken. Politics in implementation and the role of government in implementation of these community intervention programs and what ethical values should be taken care of while implementing these intervention programs will be studied. Now, what is the science of mental health community interventions? High quality research studies need to be done for the future to launch new community intervention programs in mental health care and establish the mental health field on more solid scientific background. In particular, the focus should be on those which identify strategies for promoting mental health and preventing mental illness, exploring new mental health issues and solutions to those issues while reducing the risk factors for mental disorders. Research on mental health is also necessary to find out what perspective society holds towards mental health, and if the society has some misconceptions about mental health, then efforts should be made to neutralize those misconceptions. Scientific research helps in finding solutions to the mental health problems and what new technologies can be used in advancing skills for preventing mental illness and providing better treatment for mental illness. Let me tell you about the few key points on which the science of research focuses. 1. It searches for preventive measures from mental illness. 2. It looks for effective and quick treatment for mental illness. 3. Collecting data on various mental health issues to explore about that viewpoint any society holds towards mental health and what kind of mental health program is prevailing more in which particular region. And fourthly, planning preventive programs for the problems identified. Fifth, community intervention programs for spreading awareness in mass about mental health care and available facilities. Sixthly, the use of latest technology in implementation of intervention programs. And finally, how the masses can be involved in the success of launched intervention programs. Moving on to the next heading, which is the politics on mental health. Administrative bodies of mental health care. Government is keeping separate budget for meeting the expenditure for launching community intervention programs. Although the focus is not completely on mental health facility, but it is focusing on major issues or problems of people that can help to reduce the level of stress and exposure to other mental health problems. All this work is done either through workshops to engage private NGOs in awareness and training programs, open discussions, etc. Planning Commission works for allotting required budgets for many intervention programs launched by the government. UN Women is working for the better conditions of women and children across the world. Government has launched the special community intervention programs for minority communities, poor and the transgender. Special programs were launched by the government to look after the problems which causes mental health problems, especially substance abuse. But government policies and facilities have more non-benefits than the benefits available through these programs. And the biggest limitations of government policies is the limited allocation of budget for the programs. For mental health care facilities, government only provided 1% approximate to the maximum budget. The functioning and implementation of government launched policies are slow and unavailable to all. Few such programs were discussed in the UN Women Conference on Whose Right, Whose Budget, in which it was concluded that few governments launched budgets were properly implemented. A community intervention program for transgenders was launched in Tamil Nadu, but the implementation of the program was stopped as soon as the government changed in the state. Now that shows that government needs to focus more on the implementation of its intervention programs. Next, I will talk to you about the role of non-government organizations, which we call the NGOs. NGOs are working on community intervention programs at a very large scale, although they are not widely spread in India. But their intervention programs to the working of mental health are working very efficiently on all the major aspects. NGOs are small scale separate organizations which work at individual level or at their own to carry out the research plans on mental health, to extend their work on mental health care and get a grasp of knowledge on the mental health conditions of the country's people. These NGOs do research and surveys to know more about the regions where people need immediate help for mental health care. Now, these NGOs provide all helps possible for them to provide to the people in the community they are working on or with. The drawback of these NGOs is that they are widely working in specific regions of the country, and most of them are working in the metropolitan cities, only focusing on the poor people in the city, whereas the widespread poor people are living in the villages and they are at the disadvantage of being deprived of the required help. The NGOs work at their own level with the permission of the government. They look after mentally ill people with the support of people who are willing to give their time and donations to such people. Let me give you the names of a few of the very important NGOs. National Institute of Behavioral Science, NIBS, the Kanchan Foundation, Mother Teresa Home, Basic Needs, Basic Rights. Bua Sa Hockey Village, Indian, is one of the NGOs which is working in the villages of Rajasthan with the motto of development through hockey. It has launched programs of promoting hockey and awareness among the rural Indian villages of Rajasthan and expanding it to those areas of the country where health and education facilities is poor and practices of child marriages are common, so that the awareness among the people in such areas could be spread easily. The work of basic needs and basic rights with mentally ill people and functioning of the organization is that they work in the area of capacity building, which is identifying, mobilizing, sensitizing and training mental health and development stakeholders. Community mental health, which is enabling effective and affordable community oriented mental health treatment services. Livelihoods, facilitating opportunities for affected individuals to gain or regain the ability to work, earn and contribute to family and community. Research is another area whereby they are generating evidence from the practice of mental health and development. And collaboration, which is managing partnerships and relationships with stakeholders who are involved in implementing the basic needs. Let me go on to ethics of community interventions. Now this segment will cover the work ethics for mental health practitioners and laws made to reserve the rights of mentally ill people. After doing research, some rules and regulations were made to protect the rights of the mentally ill people of the country, and some work ethics are also governed for mental health practitioners also, so that it helps both the parties, the client with the problem and the one who's providing treatment, being at some ease at workplace and help each other to the best of their capacities. Not all countries have mental health acts. The WHO report, World Health Report 2001, lists some of the countries with the percentages with or without mental health legislation. Let me tell you about these. But firstly, I'll tell you the governed laws and ethics for mental health care look after the following key points. Respect for persons. Every person has the right to be treated with respect. Respect for people and their rights incorporates at least two fundamental principles. Number one, respect for autonomy requires that those who are capable of deliberation about their personal goals should be treated with respect for their capacity for self-determination. This may apply on an individual or collective basis. Number two, protection of people, particularly those with impaired or diminished autonomy, requires that those who are dependent or vulnerable be afforded security without any kind of harm. Then comes the concept of justice. Justice requires that within a population there is a fair distribution of the benefits and burdens of participation in a study. And for that participation, a balance of burdens and benefits is done. So accordingly, investigators must, number one, avoid imposing on particular groups an unfair burden of participation in intervention studies. For example, the vulnerable members of a community should not bear disproportionate burdens of studies from which other members of the community are intended to benefit. Number two, design studies so that the inclusion and exclusion conditions for participation are fair. Justice involves reducing inequalities. Now, decision making about study questions and processes should include consideration of the potential to reduce health inequalities. Beneficence and non-malfeasance. The principle of beneficence refers to a moral obligation to act in a way that will benefit others. Non-malfeasance refers to an obligation not to inflict harm on others. In an intervention study, the risks of the study should be reasonable in the light of the expected benefits. The greater risk is the potential for harm to study participants. Now, this is particularly significant given that the benefits often accrue to societies, but not only in some cases to study participants. The greater the risk of harm from the study, the greater should be the care in addressing the ethical issues raised. Now, a study is within the range of minimal risk if potential participants can reasonably be expected to regard the probability and magnitude of possible harms from participation in the study as no greater than those encountered in everyday life. Example, where the only foreseeable risk is discomfort. Secondly, a study warrants greater provision for the protection of participants if they are not exposed to more than minimal risk. Moving on to integrity. The investigator's commitment to the advancement of knowledge entails a duty to conduct honest and thoughtful inquiry and rigorous analysis, and to accept responsibility for her or his activities in relation to research participants and communities. In intervention studies, there is a potential for personal bias in the analysis and presentation of results. All investigators need to be aware of this potential and conduct studies with objectivity, free from any influences that might compromise the scientific credibility of the study. Now, the potential for personal bias or expectation is also a reason for blinding investigators and data analysts. Nextly, we talk about diversity. As they conduct intervention studies, investigators should understand, respect, and put in place processes that recognize diversity among participants and their communities. Here we need to be addressing conflict of ideas and interests. In intervention studies, potential for conflict of interest may arise when the investigator is remunerated for participant recruitment, example with per capita payments, or has a commercial interest in the intervention or financial links to the study sponsor, or will benefit in professional or academic terms from involvement in the study. Investigators should disclose to relevant other parties, including the ethics committee, funder, employer, sponsor, and study participants, any perceived potential or actual conflict of interest that he or she has in relation to any others involved with the study. As appropriate to the circumstances, any conflict of interest should be avoided. Where this is not practicable, conflicts should be minimized and managed using strategies such as oversight and disclosure. Conflict of interest may also arise when the investigator is a participant's usual health or disability service provider. This may cause a conflict between the investigator role and the clinician's role. In some circumstances, this dual role will be appropriate. However, this possible conflict should always be disclosed and discussed with any potential participants. Other members of the study team, such as the research nurses, may also be placed in a position of conflict of interest if their employment prospects, job continuation, or remuneration depend directly on their recruiting participants into the studies. Why is ethical behavior so important in community interventions? In addition to it simply being the right thing to do, always acting ethically brings some particular advantages with it. It makes your program more effective. It cements your standing in the community. It allows you to occupy the moral high ground when arguing the merits of your program and to exercise moral leadership in the community. And it also assures that you remain in good standing legally and professionally. Apart from this, there is also program effectiveness. Consistent ethical behavior can lead to a more effective program. Considering ethical principles in all aspects of a community intervention will lead you to finding the most effective and community-centered methods and will bring dividends in participation, community support, and funding possibilities. Another benefit is standing in the community. An organization that has a reputation for ethical actions is far more likely to be respected by both the participants and the community as a whole than one that has been known to be unethical in the past. An organization that is recognized as ethical is also apt to be seen as competent and to be trusted to treat people with respect and to do what it says it will do. The community trust makes it easier to recruit staff, volunteers, board members, and participants, and to raise money and public support. Then comes the point of moral credibility and leadership. If you work for the betterment of the world, whether you see that as a social change, social justice, the alleviation of suffering and the fostering of human dignity, or simply the provision of services. It is consistent to act as you wish the rest of the world to act. Ethical actions reflects why you started your community intervention in the first place. You have a moral obligation to yourself, the individuals you work with, and the community to be ethical to all you do and expect the same from others. If you fulfill that obligation and everyone knows it, your voice will have a greater impact when you speak out for what you believe is right as against what you believe is wrong, and others will follow you. Moving on to the next benefit, and that is professional and legal issues. Many of the health and human service professionals often involved in community interventions are held to specific codes of ethics by their professional certification or licensing organizations. The American Medical Association or the American Bar Association, or for that matter the American Psychological Association, these and many more professional associations have detailed ethical standards that their members are expected to adhere to. If members of the profession violate these standards, they can be disciplined or they can even lose their licenses to practice. Let me summarize. Science helps in systematically organizing the problems of mental health from classification to taking intervention measures. Number 2. Science helps in exploring each part of the problem to the extended level and then looking for its solution through research. It also helps in revealing the past, present and future of mental health problems through research. Politics is the study of implementation programs by the government and the NGOs for community intervention. Ethics involve the guidelines which are meant to protect the rights of participants' personal self. Ethics involves respect of the person's personal self. It includes ethics for justice, diversity, addressing conflict and integrity. All of these are included in ethics that protect the basic rights of the participants against harm, any kind of harm of intervention programs, either intentional or unintentional.